Ireland doesn't have primary radar. We don't have the means to protect or patrol our airspace.
Security expert Senator Tom Clonan warns that Ireland is now Europe's weakest link. Our national air defence agreement with the UK has been an open secret for decades, but he says the details aren't in the public domain.
This is Europe's weakest link in terms of air defence, maritime, cyber and ground security. The Russian aircraft are what they're really trying to do is test NATO's reaction times. And so they fly into our controlled airspace, they turn off their transponders, which makes them invisible, and they wait for the RAF to identify them and then intercept them. But kind of by analogy, that would be like driving down the motorway with your lights switched off.
Today, a report from the Irish Times saying Ireland is probably more dependent on the RAF for air defence than at any other point since the first agreement in 1952. Conor Gallagher points to multiple times since 2015 when the RAF had to scramble Typhoon jets to intercept Russian strategic bombers operating off Ireland's west coast. The Taoiseach Minister for Defence, Miho Martin, gave this response speaking in Cork earlier today.
That anything we do in the realm of national security is consistent with Irish sovereign decision making and with our policy of military neutrality, and that relates to any decisions that have to be taken either through the Oireachtas or by government.
Because we're neutral doesn't mean that we abdicate our responsibilities in the area of defence. So NATO is kind of like a neighbourhood watch for Europe, certainly, but just because we're not members of that doesn't mean that we shouldn't have our own house alarm. So we should have radar, we should have aircraft that are capable of intercepting and escorting Russian aircraft or any other aircraft out of our airspace.
The discussion around air defence comes as 4 Russian ships were detected off Ireland's south coast. Taoiseach Miho Martin says while he doesn't see their presence as a threat, that situation is being carefully monitored. Zara King, Virgin Media News.